Welcome, everybody, to our podcast episode today. In Touch Stories of Hope, finding the strength and courage to carry on. It is indeed true when they say every second counts. According to WHO, one person dies every 40 seconds by suicide, which means that yearly we lose about 800,000 people to it. Here in Touch Community Services, we do the best we can to help bring those numbers down. September 10 is World Suicide Prevention Day, and it has always been our advocacy to make people aware of this reality. So for this year, we choose to take that extra mile to promote such awareness through this podcast, creating hope through action. There is hope. There is always hope. And hope begins right at that moment when we decide to talk about it, when we choose to understand it, when we choose to remember those whose lives were lost to suicide, when we choose to listen and be with those who cling on to hope as they face and overcome their unseen battles. Suicide has been taking the lives of so many people all over the world, especially the youth. And statistically, it is considered to be the second leading cause of death in individuals in the age group of 15 to 29. There are numerous reasons why these individuals may have attempted or have decided on taking their lives, a lot of which could be attributed to mental, neurological, and substance use disorders. For over 40 years, In Touch Community Services has been an institution that aims to bring awareness to communities about mental health and to help fight the stigma surrounding it. So for today's special episode, we hope to share with you valuable lessons that will allow you to understand more about suicide and how you can be someone's light in the midst of darkness and be that spark of hope that can help turn things around for them. Good day, everyone. My name is Thal, and I'm one of the crisis line responders of In Touch, and I will be the moderator for this afternoon. For today, we have invited different professionals who are actively involved in the mental health field. So please join me in welcoming our panelists, our registered guidance counselor and registered psychologist who's been in the counseling profession for almost 3 decades, Dr. Susana Stanislao. Doc Sue, thank you. Executive coach, master solution focused practitioner, and mental health advocate, Miss Agnes Nano. Thank you for joining us today. And a family medicine specialist who is currently one of our crisis line volunteers, Dr. Eleanor Tan, Doc Norge. Thank you as well. All right. Okay. September 10 is always an important date for us here at In Touch, as what was mentioned earlier. And before we begin, how about we do a quick check-in with everybody here in the group? Starting with, I'd like to know, how's your internal weather going on this special day? Let me start it off. I can say that for me, it's cloudy with a bit of sun, sunny cloudy. How about Doc Norge?
I want cloudy. I want no. Actually, I want sunny. Actually, sunny because of crisis line. I'd say. Uh-huh.
Good to know.
Mhm.
Miss Agnes?
Yeah, I would say cloudy with a bit of sunshine. Yeah, because excited for this podcast to share with everyone.
Agree. And Doc Sue? Doc Sue, you're on mute.
We just came from a typhoon and now it's a sunny day. Of course, after the rain, they say there's a rainbow, and at the end of the rainbow, a pot of gold. So hopefully, we'll find that gold here in our podcast through the sharing of each one. So excited too, and looking forward to this discussion.
I like that. Thank you, Doc Sue, for that. And thank you, everyone, for sharing how your internal weather is for today. Nice to know. Generally, it's sunny, cloudy. I think that's what is common among us for today. But for those who are feeling off, for everyone, all our audiences as well, if you are feeling a little off, letting you know that that's all right. Remember, it's okay not to be okay, and mental health is part of our well-being. Okay? And with that, I'd like to ask our panelists, what made you realize you want to be in the mental health field? Or what is it that you like most about being a counselor or a responder? Who'd like to start? Miss Agnes, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I started as a volunteer also like 14 years ago. At that time, I was just like in that space where I needed to do something that was, I think, very meaningful for me. And I stumbled upon Crisis Line. And what I found out was there was a lot of value, that you could learn from manning the lines, talking to people, and giving off yourself, giving off yourself, your time, your energy, helping someone whom you really do not know, and making a difference to their lives. And I think that kind of motivated me to really further on my studies and learning more about how it is to be an effective and efficient mental health provider. So what I'm doing right now is something very close to my heart, and I continue. I pray that I will still have the energy to do it for another maybe 10 more years. Yeah. So yeah, maybe Dr. Sue, you'd like to add something?
My family has always been providential. I came
Mm-mm.
from a family of educators. At that time when I was in about to take up my college degree, I really not so sure of my course. But my mom encouraged me to take up education because she was saying that my lolo is a principal, my tita is a principal, you'll surely have a job after graduation. And surprises of life. I landed at De La Salle University. Actually, I started as a classroom teacher in the grade school. And seeing these kids, playing, misbehaving, all the attention, it made me wonder how come they have different personalities, different behaviors. And my sister first enrolled in the masteral and I followed. So I took up MA in education, major in guidance and counseling. And it was fortunate for me because my classroom is just going up the stairs at De La Salle University. I was just there in my workplace. So I even pursued my PhD in counseling psychology. And maybe God has a way of, directing my path. And here I am. After 30 years, I just found myself helping people, reaching out to children, teens, adults, and even the elderly. Maybe really God has planted this mission in my heart. That's why I just kept on nourishing it. And eventually, she God also, enhanced the skills and gave me all the opportunities. Like now, there's an opportunity to share and to also discuss points that you can I can learn from you, you can learn from me. Nobody has the monopoly of knowledge. Everybody learn from each other. And I'm very grateful for this occasion. And as long as I'm willing and able, as what they say, we continue the work. God's work in us. Thank you. Doc Norge, I guess you're the next in line.
Okay, so I'm a physician. I graduated medicine and then took up family med at UPPGH. And actually, the training at that time, like decades ago, was actually, it's not just all management of medical conditions, but we also had some actually very brief training on counseling because it is the belief that anything medical that goes on, the family dynamic, the mental health issues, and it was not given that particular phrase yet, does have a bearing on how the medical management could go. So, but I wasn't able to really practice a lot of clinical medicine. My career has been more of corporate health managing medical institutions, and I retired. And when I retired, that was in 2020. When I retired, I had opportunity to do like parang call-ins from OFWs. It was in a public forum, but I was getting the drift then that while it's kind of routine to talk about hypertension and diabetes, the usual problems among Filipino, usual medical concerns. But then again, you could sense, and this is OFW, so it's kind of magnified, right? They're away from home, they're missing their families, and I could like sense that given for this particular group, for example, a lot hinges on if conditions, but it does have a bearing. I recall my training then. So I did a search. I chanced upon, I said, I think I want to get into the mental health field. So I did my search. I chanced upon In Touch. And I actually saw that they did crisis line responder training. And I feared it. Until now, I fear it every session because I'm not used to it. I can talk and talk and talk about any medical condition. Give me the time and the audience. But the thing is, mental health issues is a concern, and I want to be. I don't want to wing it. Even if I did mention that we had it when I was in residency training, I don't want to wing it, and I'm glad that Crisis Line was there to give the training. And sabi nga, we're the first aiders. And so I that triggered my interest in going further actually. So I started with the hard part, which is the first aider. Kasi kailangan, right there and then, what do you do? What do you do? It's not like, and I don't have the luxury of like, you see me again next week or, I have to be in that mindset, in that readiness. And it was fear filled, but it was very interesting for me and fulfilling in a way, even if it was just 96 hours. I wanted to do more, so that's where I am. So,
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing that. Well, same with me. Something I resonate with everyone. It's really helping each other or helping others, make a difference in other people's lives. In a nutshell, I would say that the pandemic also brought me here to In Touch, to be able to reach out or to be able to, learn how to help, like what Doc Norwich said, like to be a first aider, in this field. So there, yeah. In alignment with this year's theme of our title, Creating Hope Through Action, we ask the public to join us in this initiative to inspire others by sharing their stories of hope. We'll be using our platform, this podcast, to amplify their voices, highlight that their stories matter, and through those stories, they can empower those who are struggling to reach out and seek help. For today, we will be sharing stories voluntarily submitted by different people sharing their thoughts and experiences. Their identities remain anonymous through the use of aliases. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank those who shared their stories to be part of today's discussion to hopefully inspire our audience. Okay. Our first story is about Charlie. Charlie is someone who wants to help people. They initially thought of doing that by being a lawyer, but dropped out of law school. Considering themselves a failure at that point, okay, let me read to you their entry. A couple of years ago, I experienced a quarter life crisis. I dropped out of law school, which was what my parents wanted for me, since I was young and it was something that I accepted and considered as my goal career growing up. But when I started law school, I realized that it was not for me. I was constantly anxious and tired from all the studying. I would find myself crying most of the time because of the workload and stress. I was also constantly afraid of humiliating myself in class during recitation. I would only sleep 2 to 3 hours every day because I would prioritize studying, or I would sleep on the bus ride to school. I was also commuting that time, and even though I would wake up early, I would still be late to school because of the heavy traffic. I would miss the quizzes my professor gives at the start of class, and it came to a point where I broke down while walking to school because I missed another quiz, and I was guaranteed to fail the class. I felt all of my efforts in review went down the drain because I would fail regardless of the effort I put in studying. I felt unmotivated to continue law school, and I could not see myself practicing law for the rest of my life, as the constant anxiety and stress would eat me alive. I chose not to go to school anymore that day and walked away. I kept on crying, and I didn't know where to go. I couldn't face my friends and family because I felt like a failure and worthless. I was afraid that they will be disappointed in me. The negative thoughts kept on pouring, and I was having a crisis. I didn't know what to do with my life anymore, as my plan was always to become a lawyer, and I failed. I didn't have a dream and goal anymore. Life became pointless for me, and I wanted to step on traffic because I had no reason or purpose to live anymore. But I couldn't do it as there were people around, and I know how traumatic it will be for them, especially for the kids. I decided to go home and face my fears. When I got home, my parents were okay with my decision, and they even bought pizza to comfort me. I also diverted my attention to finding a job, and I got accepted to a company that partners with NGOs, and I got to help a lot of people. Because of that, I realized that I can still help other people despite not being a lawyer. I wanted to do more, so I applied to graduate school and pursue a degree that I am passionate about and give me the avenue to help more people. I also saw a psychiatrist, which helped me process my emotions and thoughts. From time to time, I still think of the what ifs and experience imposter syndrome, but I look back on my progress and the challenges I have overcome to be where I am right now. I also realize that my failures led me to this path where I am happier and have made me more resilient. Okay. Feeling like a failure, yun yung nag-drive kay Charlie to want to end their life. They put a lot of effort into studying, but the anxiety and exhaustion became too much to handle. Due to uncontrollable factors like heavy traffic in the morning, they missed quizzes given at the start of class, and this made them think that they were guaranteed to fail. Okay, if somebody were to call the line with in this situation, usually we give them that safe space to vent out and just really release their thoughts and feelings. But I'd like to know, Doksu, in this scenario or that similar that case, how do we best manage thoughts, these kinds of thoughts or catastrophic thinking like this?
Okay, unang-una, thank you for sharing with us that story of Charlie. You know, Charlie, if you're listening and all those who are with us right now, catastrophic thinking can be, can come across us at any point in our life. These are unpleasant thoughts that we feel or we think from time to time. Thoughts could be good, could be bad for us, but the most important thing, how do we respond to it, to those thoughts? And catastrophic thoughts or magnifying thoughts can be harmful because it leads us to something worse. From the story of Charlie, we could understand that this feeling of failure led him to think of, even failing in life in general. What about the job, the career that I want to pursue? How can I make it? How can I even show my face to my friends and all this? So, it the snowball effect, it gets bigger and bigger until it reached to a point that you become trapped or stuck in that kind of thinking. And I guess that's the worst thing that one could ever experience, when you feel like the worst is happening to you, as if you are the heavy, sabi nila, pasan mo ang buong daigdig, di ba? Ganun
Mm.
kalala na ang condition mo. Okay, and I'm glad Charlie found a way out. Di ba? Kasi story of hope tayo. And these causes, I'm sure we experience this from time to time. Let me just give you a little idea on the causes. Why is it that we experience catastrophic thinking? It could happen to us. For example, if we have yung ambiguity or vague statements that we just experience, like maybe a text message from a friend or from an ex or from a lover, like saying, we need to talk. And then all of a sudden, you're thinking, how? What will we talk about? You entertain already a lot of negative thoughts. And then you're thinking, ako, baka makipag-break up na siya sa akin. What will happen to me? I don't want to grow alone, old alone. I don't want to experience being separated from my loved ones. So that could be one cause of catastrophic thinking, ambiguity, or being vague in our thoughts and how information come to us. Another is it could be something that we value, like relationship. This is something that we value. That's why like for example, the case of Charlie, career, being a law professional someday, a lawyer. That's what he valued, the family value. So if this won't happen to him, it can cause him also to magnify things or to roll into a spiral. Pwede ka mag-spiral rin eh. And then it can lead to depression. Another is fear. Ito, marami tayo nito, no? Fear of failure. Sabi nga ni Charlie, I am a failure. And this is a defeating self-talk. So, given all this, how do we approach it? So just like what Charlie did, I'm sure maybe Doc Norge can enlighten us on the medical field. I know this has something to do also with the chemicals that we are experiencing biologically. Isn't it? There are certain genes that we inherit also from our parents or family members that can cause us to be anxious. Catastrophic thinking leads to anxiety actually. And going through rumination and constant magnification of events can lead us to depression. So, what are the things maybe that we can pick up from the story of Charlie and adapt as tips, so that we can overcome catastrophic thinking or magnification, hopefully without this clinical uh, complications yet. So, unang-una, you have to acknowledge that unpleasant things happen. It could happen to you, it could happen to me, it could happen to anyone. This is something normal and valid as long as you're in control, still in control of things. Second, you have to recognize when you encounter irrational thoughts. You will know because sometimes people give you feedback. You're thinking differently. That's irrational. That's something that is not based from reality. Maybe like the failure, you can still try. There could be a second try, a third try. That's not the end of the world. That's not the end of your career. Third, when these thoughts just comes in and out of your mind, you just have at that one point stop. You have to tell yourself, this is it. Enough is enough. You have the power to control it. Stop thinking. Stop entertaining catastrophic thinking or magnification. And then maybe after doing it, you can think of another positive outcome. Maybe something that you can overcome with there's another chance. Life is made up of chances. I can retake the test, I can study, I can consult, I can reach out, I can ask for help. In order to pass, there must be a way out. And for every problem, there's a solution. Which goes to the fifth, offer positive affirmations. You need to, talk positively to yourself. I can do this. Kaya ko ito. Aja. Di ba sabi nga ng mga bagets, You can do it, ha? Just hope, and some people, they resort into prayers. That helps also. Family, friends supporting you. Think of your parents, the hard work that they're doing for you. And also, give it to yourself. Affirm yourself. I have gone this far. I can go further. I have overcome difficulties in the past. I can do it again. And of course, practice excellent self care. Get enough sleep. You need to sleep well, rest well, exercise, eat healthy diet, healthy, nutritious food, get sunshine, ayan, take an extra walk, early morning, be grateful, you know, develop an attitude of gratitude, focus on what you can control, don't focus on what you cannot control, and maybe start to be a blessing to others. If you count your blessings, you become one. And it all starts from you. A change of positive mindset. Instead of working on something that you cannot control, things that will pull you down and eventually make you more discouraged, why don't you change your mindset into something workable, healthy, positive, and you can be a living example that things are possible and you can be a beacon of hope and help to others. Kaya natin to. God bless us. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Doksu. A lot of things there, and comforting to know that it can happen to anyone at any time, and nobody's exempted. And to summarize, what I picked up from you, besides to acknowledge, recognize, tell yourself to stop, think of another positive outcome, positive affirmation, and excellent self care, including sleeping well and eating healthy. Um, okay, going back to Charlie though, when Charlie in their story, when they got home, their parents were okay with their decision, and even bought pizza to comfort them. So we're glad to know that Charlie chose to face their fears. And with this, no, in your opinion, Miss Agnes, where do people get that sudden courage to face their fears in spite of the burdens that they are carrying?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Tal. I'll follow through from what Dr. Sue said, no? And what resonated well with me was the one that she said, stop, just stop. And I think if I can relate it to Charlie, I know if you're listening, you did have the courage to stop when you did. You could have crossed the street, but you did not. And you said something like, I decided to go home. I know it must have been difficult for you to even stop at the time, but you took a gamble. You took that act of courage, that first step towards maybe doing something that you felt was right for you, no? And to face your fears. You did face your fears. Takes courage to be able to do that. Only to find out, and tama, no, you were able to prove yourself wrong that there are people pala. The support system is very intact. That's where courage can come from. When you know that even if you're afraid, you know, I remember somebody telling me that, you're afraid, then just go into the arena with fear. It does not matter. But what's important is you show up. You show up afraid, that's fine too. So courage it has a lot of forms. It comes in so many forms. The courage to stop when you did. And you did that. I'd like to give yourself a tight hug that you did what you thought was best at that time. You were even thinking of what will happen to the kids. In that ambivalent time, you were still able to think clearly of what other people might, how people might, other people might react when they see you crossing the street and supposing that really happened. No, you were still caring. So I would like you to look into yourself. Who is the real Charlie now that we're talking about? The Charlie who is courageous, the Charlie who is caring, the Charlie who found courage to tell their parents, about what they're going through, only to find out that they have the full support of their family. the courage to take on another career, the courage to seek help. You sought the help of a professional. In the training of crisis line, we always say this, di ba, Thal, Norge? We always say this. It takes courage to raise your hand and say, hey, I need help. And you did that. No? And you did that. So, in answer to your question, Thal, where do people get the courage? First, it's already there in them. Just have to bring it out, and maybe the circumstance, while Charlie might have thought it was something that was a weakness for him, it brought out the real Charlie, the Charlie who could bravely say, I need help. And when sometimes, di ba, Doc Sue, when you and Doc Norge, when you hit rock bottom, I will share this with my clients. When you hit rock bottom, it's only to find out what's the level of the water where you can pick yourself up and propel yourself up to the level of the water where you can breathe again. So imagining yourselves as taking the courage to dig deep and push back so that your head is above the water, and where you can see yourself, hey, I'm still alive. Hey, there are possibilities that I can think of, probabilities, options. Like yung sinasabi nga ni Dr. Sue, no? Ang dami pang pwedeng makita, no? When you are keeping an open mind. When you are able to have a mindset of gratitude. What can you be thankful for? And this is something I think, Charlie, you can be thankful for this. That you have your family, that you had a chance for a second career. And you kept on repeating, helping other people is something close to your heart. That takes a lot, because not everybody is born that way, no? Dito kami sa In Touch, no, sa crisis line, ay yung pong core mantra namin yun po kami, tutulong po kami hanggang kaya namin. So, you are to help other people. Yung sinasabi mo, to help other people, paulit-ulit mo sinasabi. And I affirm you for that. I validate, and I am so impressed about you for even thinking of other people when you yourself are going through so much. So courage, yes, we can get that from our inner strength. Sabi nga ni Dr. Sue, from a greater being, whoever your God is, that's a greater being. But I think more importantly is knowing that we can, if we want to, if we will. Yung sabi nga nila, kung gustong kung gustong gawin, gagawa ng paraan. Kung ayaw, gagawa ng dahilan. So I think, Charlie, I salute you for your courage. And for those who are listening right now, take that first step, the courage to just reach out and say, I need help. Sa kamag-anak, sa kaibigan, not necessarily sa professional agad kung ayaw nyo pa, but just say it out loud. I need help. And maybe to yourself. Say it to yourself in front of the mirror. I need help. And that's a good validation already. That's a good first step. So Thal, those are my thoughts. I hope it helps.
Yeah, actually, powerful words, Miss Agnes. No, along with what Doc Sue mentioned earlier, what I remember with the things that you shared is to do it afraid. No, do it afraid. Take
Show
that
up,
step.
show up, but
Go up.
show up, but show up. Be afraid,
Yeah,
but
and show up. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
and just really doing it even when you're afraid. Reaching out even when it's scary. And we never know. Like maybe others may relate to Charlie. Na hindi nila alam. Okay, what is on the other side na when they do reach out. But surprisingly, there were that it opened up to the support system. No, with their story, they eventually found a job that allowed
Mm.
them to help other people as well. So sabi nga niya, They wanted to do more, so nag-apply sa graduate school and pursue a course na passionate sila about. So the future looked bleak at first, but eventually things turned out for the better. Okay, here's my next question. No? About Charlie's last words, yung sinabi niya na, my failures led me to this path where I am happier and made me more resilient. Um, I'd like to get your thoughts on this, Doc Norge. No? What can you say about this?
Actually, my first impression of that statement, his last statement on his narration, kasi it's really it takes a person of perspective and strength to use the word failure. I'm a failure. I failed, diba? Kasi some people kind of sugarcoat it. I stumbled, medyo sumablay ng konti. Sa Tagalog, marami tayong way of saying it. Pero to use the word failure is pretty strong. And yet, his message was really, Charlie's message was actually using this failure as a stepping stone and not the end of the road. Yeah. So like picking from where Agnes and also Supik mentioned, there are ways around it, and he did that. So ang ano kasi is, sabi nga, I've read somewhere that if we're going to stumble, we are all going to stumble. So hopefully we stumble forward, because that's where it is. Looking back as to where I failed, where I should have done better, should have, could have, would have, di ba? That just stops us in the negative way. Kasi tama si Dr. Sue and si Agnes, stop doing this to yourself. But at the same time, kasi if you're going to get out of this rut, it is really to move forward. And yun nga ang ano sa kanya, because he used that failure, that stumbling block, as a stepping stone, and it's not the end of the road. So that was pretty impressive for me, and that takes a person of perspective to be able to say that. Yeah.
That's good to know, no, Doc Norge, that um, in the same way that what everybody shared as well. When you hit that rock bottom, diba, as they say nga, there's no other way but up. So like when they hit that rock bottom, it's like, how do you take that experience and transforming it the other way? And it turns out that those who realize these things, they're able to come out stronger and a person with more perspective, like what you mentioned in Doc Norris, matter of perspective, how they will move forward with these experiences. No? Okay, that's an uplifting story. How through the support of others, they picked themselves up and found a different way to do what they still wanted. Helping others talaga. That's the bottom line. Okay, moving on to our second story. This is also about someone going through a difficult time, but was able to bounce back thanks to the support of others and professionals. Okay, now let me share with you the story of Bravo. Bravo is an ate in their family and has been relied on both by their siblings and parents ever since they've been a child. As soon as they've finished their studies, they have also continued to support their family financially. They have childhood memories where they were criticized and shamed to the point where they wish they were never born. Right? Let me share with you what they wrote here. Iyak ako ng iyak, ang sama-sama ng loob ko. Kinuha ko yung table knife sa cabinet at pumasok ako sa CR. Umupo sa sahig at tinitignan ko yung knife na nakatapat sa wrist ko. Sana mamatay na lang ako. Sana namatay na lang ako. Sana hindi na lang ako pinanganak para maging masaya na siya. Puro ganon yung nasa isip ko habang naririnig ko pa rin yung boses ng nanay ko na nagsisigaw doon sa sala. Aalis lang naman kami para mamasyal. Bakit siya galit na galit sa akin? Hindi ko alam. Hindi ko naiintindihan. Ganyang memories ang bit-bit ko araw-gabi hanggang mid-20s ko. Lalo ding sumasama ang loob ko habang tumatagal. Para bang hindi na ako magiging masaya sa buhay, sakal na ako sa pamilya ko. Gusto ko namang mabuhay para sa sarili ko. Okay. I'm sure many can relate to this. At this time, Bravo didn't know about therapy and counseling in the Philippines. And it was at that time where they would go to dentists and doctors and they would point the source of their conditions to stress. Here they said, working na ako nung maisipan ko na baka may mahanap ako kasi laging sagot sa akin ng mga doktor at dentista kung bakit may certain conditions ako, may certain pains akong nararamdaman, hirap ako matulog, lagi nilang sinasabi, baka stressed ka. Stress. Lagi na lang stress. Nakapag-exercise naman ako, kumakain ako ng masasarap na pagkain, nagta-travel, mabuti ang kaibigan ko, may pera ako, nakakatulong ako sa pamilya ko. Pero bakit gabi-gabi umiiyak ako? Bakit tuwing umaga masakit agad ang ulo ko? Bakit lagi akong may nightmares? Bakit lagi na lang sinasabi na baka dahil sa stress? Ang dami ko naman ngang stress reliever. Okay, I want to take a pause here and highlight this point because I think it's important. It seemed na nakapag self-care na siya and some of these things were mentioned earlier on. But is this really self-care or is it just distracting oneself from addressing emotional problems? Doc Norge, coming from a medical perspective, no, meron bang perfect combo ng self-care to ensure one is both physically and mentally healthy?
Okay. I think, and kanina, Dr. Su mentioned about some recent studies being done when it comes to chemicals in our brain, right? Di ba madalas nga nating naririnig, huwag kang magpapastress. May high blood ka pa naman, huwag kang mai-stress. Why is that? And it's sound advice because chemical things do happen in our body. Hindi ko na masyadong physiology or whatever. Pero chemical things do happen. Kaya nga alam natin na pag talagang sasabihin sa'yo, sunog, suddenly may ilalabas mo yung refrigerator which you cannot do by yourself in ordinary circumstances. Something chemical happened, naging Incredible Hulk ka ba or something, but something chemical happened to your body to be able to do that. And that's no joke. It is something that controls a lot of our physiology, a lot of our, kumbaga yung pag-andar ng makina ng katawan. Pero yun din sa pag-andar ng emotions. Pag namatayan tayo, dapat lang may grief, di ba? And that's a trigger then for certain chemicals to go up or down for us to feel grief. For pag may nagka-baby ka at ikaw yung first time daddy, ang saya-saya, and that's a chemical thing. Mommy din, ang saya-saya. That's a chemical thing that happens. Now, ang mga recent studies ngayon when it comes to these things is that it is a chemical condition that has to be addressed. Yes, definitely kailangan ng counselors to talk it out and that helps. And that's part of the self-care, di ba? But at the same time kasi, sometimes when it has reached the point that yun na nga, na hindi talaga, na hindi lang yun, inaano din natin to go to a professional like psychiatrists who are doctors who can prescribe. And what are those things that they prescribe? It's chemicals, right? It is for us to modulate yung moods and emotions, and it does help. Ang nafa-find out ko is that, and I've mentioned it, that is, I think there was one caller who asked, and I didn't even say that I was a doctor, pero kasi parang sinasabi ko, di ba, ang daling intindihin, kasi I was persuading na mukhang kailangan mo na ng psychiatrist. Doktor kasi yon. And parang siyempre, hindi naman ako topak, hindi naman ako natutopak. Di ba ganun yung term na parang kakahiya sabihin, may topak ba ako, loko-loko na ba ako, or what, mental na ba ako. Pero kasi, di ba sabi ko nga, ang daling intindihan pag sinabi mo diabetic ka, kailangan mo yung dieta, yung ganyan-ganyan, extra, pero kailangan mo rin ng gamot. Ba't naiintindihan natin yun? Di ba? No question about that, right? Pero pag sinabi mong mukhang may depression ka or nagkakaroon ka ng mental conditions na that is serious enough na yes, kailangan mo ng psychologist to talk to, but also a psychiatrist to give you meds. Parang ang hirap-hirap tanggapin, di ba? And yet, diabetes, hypertension, ang daling, I need some chemicals or medicines to do it. And yes, when it comes to self-care, especially for those, that was kind of extreme na yun, those with depression and mental illness, but for self-care kasi, the definition talaga ng self-care is not just yung stress alleviating things like eating well, getting enough sleep. It should be something, self-care should mean some activity that you enjoy. And it should be good for your head, for your mental health, for your physical health, for your emotional health. Yun yung talagang self-care, yung enjoyment part. Now, of course, some people will say, oh, so magda-drugs ako kasi nag-enjoy ako mag-drugs. But you know, that's not good for your body, right? So, it should meet that criteria kasi na ganon. And they're saying kasi na if you do some self-care things na, okay, you chose something to enjoy, which is exercise, do expect na at one point sabihin mo, okay, nag-exercise na ako, but why am I not feeling high or happy as I did before? Do expect that because there are some self-care things that we do na makakailangan nating i-modify. It cannot be consistently happy, happy, high, high all the time. Just be prepared na you will have to modify. I really like this cute advertisement nung I forgot what it is for. I think it was about a milk that is ang target women. I can't mention the brand. Pero kasi like, obviously she enjoys exercising. Pero she's like using her kids as her weights, you know, para siyang nag-yoga pero yung kid niya nakasakay sa likod niya. So, it's fun, di ba? Parang I can imagine kung gano'n na if you're a mom and okay, gusto ko mag-exercise, gusto kong pumayat and I just want to feel good, yung endorphin high na tinatawag, one of those chemicals that I was talking about. And yet she also takes care of her kids because it's fun. The bonding, the affection. So, yung mga ganong angle when it comes to self-care. Pero mga definites like Dr. Su mentioned earlier na kasi kanina, sleep is a big thing. Sleep is when the body does repairs. It's not something na kaya kong 4 hours of sleep, okay na ako doon. Yeah, but okay, I'm a doctor, so I have to cite certain science findings that says no, our body needs repair at night. That's the one time your brain repairs itself. Kaya madali nagkaka-dementia, nagaling nagkakaroon ng mga ganong klaseng mga conditions, worsens depression or other mental issues. It's because your body is not made to repair itself. Your brain is not made to repair itself adequately. So sleep is a very big factor. Not to mention, you can also lose weight just because you sleep well, and that you feel better when you sleep well. Pero isang malaking bagay na that we take for granted because we think, oh, kaya. Parang pride pa na I can just function with 4 hours of sleep or 3. Well, you can't. Okay, so it proves that aabutin mo yung limit faster than you think. So yon, no. Pero yung self-care definitely for everybody, not just for this one. And yes, stress does have some chemical elements in it that we need to address. And if you are exposed to stress, imagine mo araw-araw na lang parang may sunog kang inire-response ang katawan mo. Parang palaging ganon. Nakaka-damage talaga ng blood vessels. Nakaka-damage ng the way we think. You cannot think clearly. And yes, it can lead to depression. That was why they were saying noong panahon ng pandemic, ang hirap nung isolated ka, sanay ka na, we're not used to this. This is not normal conversation noon na through Zoom, right? Na kailangan katapat ko yung tao, kaibigan ko, nahahaplos ko or something. It's not normal. Pero, and if day in, day out, that's what you're exposed to, no wonder a lot of people got depressed. Because part na yun na hindi nakaka-cope, maybe, wala silang mga self-care na ginagawa. But because chemical things do happen in our bodies that aggravates that particular setup, especially if you haven't been practicing real self-care. So, I'm sure Dr. Su can say a lot more from this.
I appreciate what you shared, no, Doc Norge, that hopefully we can normalize talking, like if you feel something emotional, go to a psychologist or psychiatrist. Same way that when we feel something physical, we go to a medical doctor. And yes, nice input there, Doc Norge, no? With that, so others may relate to this, no? Doc Sue, I'd like to know how common is this and how can people address this? Na they've gone to medical doctors, results come in normal, but they still cry at night, feel body aches randomly, pero kompleto sila sa self-care.
Alam mo, you cannot really care for others if you don't care about yourself. You cannot give what you don't have. You have to listen to your body. Listen to what your brain is telling you. Honor your emotions. I guess what Bravo is encountering, just like what Doc Norge mentioned, medyo parang clinical na tingin ko no? Maybe she need to seek professional help na talaga. Maybe she can consult a psychologist first and then magkaroon ng initial assessment and then maybe the psychiatrist. So tandem sila. Usually, it's a co-management case approach that we do in order to help a client kung we believe manifesting symptoms already of clinical depression or clinical anxiety, or maybe other more. Okay? But in general, I would like to say that self-care is for everybody. You cannot give what you don't have. It should start from yourself. And I believe this is a moral obligation. Self-care is also a professional competency. We need self-care also in the workplace. Kaya nga may wellness program. Di ba? Hindi lang sa bahay yan. Hindi lang sa pamilya. It could be also in the workplace. And we see a lot of programs for self-care, self-management, emotional regulation, wellness, etc. But let me tell you some practical tips on how you can further self-care. Aside from those mentioned by Doc Norge and maybe and Miss Agnes can also add into this, you have to schedule. Ito talaga, may oras, hindi lang sabihin mo, ay mag-exercise ako, guilty ako dyan, Ilang beses ko na rin sinabi sa sarili ko yan. But during the pandemic, we used to go to the gym, kami ng husband ko and even my kids before, when time was normal then. Eh ngayon, ito na yung new normal natin. Ito na yung new now, sabi nga nila, So we need to modify, sabi nga ni Doc Norge, baka may mga self-care tayong ginagawa na it's not working anymore. Kasi sedentary lifestyle or maybe hybrid na rin tayo, return to office. But just the same, most of us, nandito pa rin sa bahay, just like me. I'm still here at home. So I need to find time, be creative, be more intentional. Dapat intentional tayo and on purpose. Gawin na natin. Wag bukas, wag sa susunod na linggo, now na. Today is the best time to do self-care. And how do you start with that? Find time. Maybe it could be early in the morning. Kahit a few breathing exercises lang to start your day. Maybe some prayers or meditation just to, ground yourself, quiet yourself, center yourself, and start your day with some energy, focus, and, purpose. Dapat lagi intentional talaga And maybe you can end your day with a gratitude. Say something grateful. What is it that went well during the day? Or what are you most grateful for? Maybe people that you met during the day. Maybe the birds chirping. Ngayon nyo lang napansin yun, na may ibon pala outside your window na hindi nyo napapansin. So be more mindful. When you become mindful, you become intentional and you do things on purpose. That's why also in counseling, we teach clients breathing exercises. Marami akong props, lalo na yung mga ganyan, inhale, exhale, at saka we also have something that we can roll on our shoulder, diba? O kaya merong kang you can do some the tensing of the muscle, sabayan mo na rin ng breathing, or maybe you can do some fidgeting. This can help also, buy time, or when you don't have something to do. Ayan ang mga fidget toys ko, And very important, massage. Treat yourself, If you cannot go out, you can have something to just roll on your back or ask somebody to do it for you. And you can do a lot. Because self-care, again, is a moral obligation and a professional competency. It's a must, especially for us who are dealing with people, who are encountering and taking care of people. We need to take care of ourselves. And maybe some more tips that you can try. Do things that you enjoy. Importante yun Huwag kayong mag-gym kung burden sa inyo yun, Kasi sinabi lang ng boss nyo o ng boyfriend mo, alika, samahan mo ko sa gym. Sama ka naman, pero nananakit lahat ng katawan mo and you cannot be consistent. Remember, Consistency is the key here in self-care. Hindi lang siya one time, big time. Kailangan gawin natin on a regular basis, just like breathing exercises or just like going to the doctor, di ba? May regular visits, may regular medication na tinitake tayo. Exercise pa rin, research really show, aside from sleep, exercise pa rin is the best. Nabanggit nga ni Doc Norge yung endorphin. Serotonin is another happy chemical that can be boost through exercise. And we should do this on a regular basis. Find time again, sabi nga nila, ang taong gusto, maraming paraan. Ang taong ayaw, maraming dahilan. Eat healthy food. Babanggitin ko ulit yan kasi ang daming processed food na talaga, instant coffee, instant meal, instant noodles, instant sickness rin, Kasama rin yun, That's the consequence of eating puro mga instant, kaya ang daming iba-ibang illnesses, I have encountered a lot of different illnesses na doon ko lang. Kaya basa ako ng basa, especially when I'm helping clients talaga, Siyempre, selective tayo sa binabasa natin, Very important rin kasi when we read or when we Google or when we go to social media, we become selective, Alam natin may mga fake news, alam natin na hindi yun ang reality, and pag talagang medyo toxic sa atin, detox, detox, huwag kayong mag-social media, yan lagi yung sinasabi ko. Huwag muna mag-open ng social media, you can hibernate, and that's okay, It's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be connected for a time, kasi connected ka naman with yourself. Remember, you're doing this for a purpose, intentional, remember, and then very important talaga yung sleep na nabanggit na kanina yun, sleep and rest. Kahit nga machines nagbe-breakdown pag walang pahinga di lalo na tayo, we need to repair the cells and recuperate from the wear and tear. Lalo na pag hindi ka na bata, we're not getting any younger. It's a call also to listen more to our body and listen to what we are experiencing. And very important, don't do this alone. Always remember, there are people who can help you, psychologists, psychiatrists, medical doctors, counselors, coaches, volunteers, teachers, classmates, friends, family members, mga ex, pwede rin sila, kahit nag-ghosting, hindi, wag na muna yung mga exes kasi nakaka-trigger sila, okay? But most important, know yourself. And when you know yourself, you become closer to the creator of yourself. And that leads us to a deeper understanding of the self when we begin to love and be more compassionate with ourselves, even in times of pain and suffering. And that's the most important thing. Walang iwanan. Yan lagi sinasabi ko sa clients natin. Your best friend should be yourself, not your best enemy. Hindi mo siya kalaban, kakampi mo siya. Just like this, actually may drawing ako Anyway, kasi may background ako May mga drawings kasi ako na I show to my clients to exhibit self-care and self-love. Just like a mama bear, imagine nyo na lang taking care of her cub or baby bear. That's how we love ourselves. And when somebody attacks or invade us, without our consent, we can become fierce to stand up for ourselves and to face our enemies and our difficulties. And let me end my short sharing with the WHO definition of self-care. It says, the ability of individuals, families, and communities to promote health, prevent disease, maintain health, and to cope with illness and disability with or without the support of a healthcare provider. Thank you. God bless us all. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Doc Sue. Okay, to our audience, I hope you're all taking down notes. These are valuable tips that we can all um, practice and share, as well. No? Um, Thank you again, Doc Suna. Um, okay, back to Bravo's story. As the years went by and nothing changed, Bravo finally decided na they've had enough. Like similar to Charlie's story na biglang stop, ganun. And started to seek therapy services. Sabi nga ni Bravo, malaki ang pasasalamat ko na nagpa-therapy ako. I'm still a work in progress. Hindi ko pa rin fully ma-accept minsan na sobrang broken ko. But I become hopeful whenever I remind myself na may control ako sa sarili ko at sa future ko. The life that I have, the capability to build matters more than the life I was given in the past. This is what keeps me going at excited akong makilala ang future self ko. I think this encapsulates some of the things that was mentioned earlier, no? Things started to turn around once Bravo got professional help. One question that I'd like to ask, no, Miss Agnes, what if a person lacks financial resources and the family is the stressor instead of a support system? Who can they reach out to? Where can hope be found in situations like this?
Thank you, Thal. That's a very good question, no? Because sometimes um, there's this seeking mental health support can be misunderstood as mahal yan, no? Hindi namin kaya, no? That's why dito tayo sa crisis line, we are a 24/7, 365 days a year, free, anonymous telephone support service, no? So one need not pay anything to be able to talk to someone in crisis line. Now that's one, no. And then when they are in need of further, kunyari kagaya sabi nga ni Dr. Sue, baka kailangan na ng psychiatric support, no? More than what maybe crisis line can provide. Meron naman tayong pwedeng referral sa kanila through mga government agencies like National Center for Mental Health, nandyan ng Philippine General Hospital. Magandang mga psychiatric programs nila dyan, no? So there is always a way to ask to seek help. And sabi mo nga, to provide hope for ourselves, no? It need not be expensive. Now, the thing is, I'll go back to what I said a while ago, no? Have the courage to first reach out. That's your first step. Reach out. Because you don't know what gates will open for you, eh? You don't know what are the possibilities that might be open for you once you decide to say, you reach out and say, I need help, no? Ko-connect ko lang sa sinabi ni Doc Norge kanina tsaka ni Doc Sue, no? Kasi when you reach out, that's already, you're getting yourself halfway there already. That's you taking care of yourself. That's you loving yourself and treating yourself with kindness and compassion. And that is innate. You know, you can't, nobody will do that for you. You have to make that decision to reach out. So, deciding where to go, that will be the next step. Okay. But just decide, I need help. Okay. So reach out. Where do I reach out to? Maaring crisis line. If you are close with maybe you have an ecumenical service group, you have your pastors, you have your Christian fellowships, you can also go there. There's so many ways of reaching out to people who can help you. But first acknowledge that you need help. That's where hope starts. No, I think it's also important that, like sinasabi nga ni Doc Sue, if I can repeat that again, it's okay not to be okay. And you cannot give something from an empty vessel. So if you want to be able to help yourself, start with just being authentically you. So what is it that I need right now? If I need support, then I will ask for support. I will not expect people to guess what's in my head. So you take accountability, take accountability to say, okay, I need help. And for all you know, the gates will just open. Andyan, ang dami po. Crisis line will be able to give you a lot of resources. You just have to dial the numbers. And the numbers, later on, I think we will post it somewhere. It's also on Facebook. So, yes, there is a way to ask for help without spending too much or spending anything. There is free service. There's a free service that you can avail of. And just call Crisis Line. We can give you all those details.
While we're on this topic, Miss Agnes, now, what is the difference or what usually happens in a counseling session and a crisis line call?
Okay, that's a very good question. In counseling, that will be like more of, like may proceso. It's a longer conversation with a psychologist, with a psychiatrist. So it's like mga more than mga 50 minutes, almost 50 minutes yan. With crisis line, who you will be talking to is a responder. Sabi nga ni Doc Norge kanina, no? We are first responders. We provide in the moment support. So pag tumawag po kayo sa crisis line, ang makakausap nyo, first responder, who will maybe engage you in a conversation that will help to validate what you're going through, to affirm what you're going through, and maybe lead you, ask you some questions that may give you some insights of what you're going through. Maybe magkakaroon ng konting reminders na, uy, alam mo, yung mga kinikwento ko pala sa'yo, nagawa ko na ng paraan noon, no? So parang nagkakaroon ng parang a safe place. Ayan, lagi natin sinasabi yan, no? Crisis line provides a safe place because it's anonymous, di ba? It's a safe place for you to talk, to vent, to express, to cry, if need be, to be emotional without fear. And this is very important, without fear of being judged. So ang kausap mo dito, naturuan na, nahasa na, na-train yan. So they have been trained to be good listeners. Yan. So providing a safe space is number one. Second is, through the conversation, because it's non-judgmental, our best hope is baka naman sakali, through the conversation, the caller gets to realize his or their own strengths, their own skills, their own resources that they have been having all along. They must just have forgotten it because they were so immersed in problem talk. They were like para bang it was just too much already, too overwhelming already. I always say this, there's a lot on your plate. You're like served a buffet and you don't know what to prioritize. So when that happens, please, take the courage to call us. Baka sakali, by talking to someone who will provide you a safe space, again, I will repeat that, who will be non-judgmental, who will be able to validate and affirm you on what you're already doing well, and maybe, gentle suggestions on how to keep yourself safe and take care of yourself. Maybe when you feel that somebody cares, hindi ka nag-iisa, then that will give you hope na, meron pala somebody cares. And I don't even know this person I'm talking to, and yet they care for me. They care if I need help. They care that they can even refer them to maybe more counseling sessions, and that there's a referral system that we go through, or there's somebody we can refer them to who, if they are in need of financial support in terms of getting the psychological help that they need. So there are so many kinds of help that we can provide. It's just that the first step is really taking the courage to say, I need help. So if you're not sure if this will work for you or not, for our listeners out there, you can always try once. And if it doesn't work for you, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we stand by our core mantra that no call is any. It's no call. All the calls that we take are important to us.
Mhm.
So there's no petty call. There's no more important calls. You call, we receive your call. We will help you the best way that we can. And it's up to you. It's up to you to take it from there. So, yeah, I hope that gives you an idea of what crisis line is all about. I know sometimes we get calls like we need financial support. Pwede ba kami ituro sa saan kami pwedeng mangutang? Ayun po, hindi naman namin nakakayang gawin. Pero what we can do maybe is to help you process the feelings and the thoughts that are going through you in terms of having these financial issues. Baka mapapakalma namin kayo ng konti, baka magkakaroon kayo ng mga ideas on how to resolve your issues further. But yun lang, no, I have to say this because sometimes we do get calls like that, no? Nasabihin, saan ako pwedeng mangutang? Saan ako bangko pwede pumunta? So ours more is mental health, no? On the mental health, the well-being of the caller is important for us. I don't know, Thal, that answer your question?
Okay, thank you for that, Miss Agnes. It sounds comforting to know, that help need not be expensive. And as what you mentioned, the first step is to reach out. And maybe, it would be a good next step to call crisis line to see, just to dip their foot in the water. Take like what you mentioned, test it out muna. Hindi kailangan counselor agad or psychologist agad. No, maybe that first step or that next step, just need that safe space to talk and share. No, okay. All right. Before we close this segment and begin with another story, pwede nyo ba i-share in your practice, in a word or two, one word or two lang, what has been the most interesting or least expected source of hope that's helped your client or caller? Okay, I can start. I've heard from a caller that one who was already attempting suicide na, sabi niya, if it weren't for their dog na lumapit sa kanya, hindi niya may isip na wala kasing family niya eh. So it was just the dog. Kung hindi lumapit yun, siguro natuloy na yung attempt niya. So yan. Okay. Next, Doc Norge.
I'm always surprised that when callers would be surprised when I mention nakasakay na ba kayo sa eroplano? Yung bang pag may nangyari sa eroplano, 'di ba, may bababa yung oxygen mask. And sinasabi nila kahit baby pa yung kasama mo na inaalagaan mo, unahin mo muna sarili mo bago mo ibigay yung oxygen mask dun sa bata because she'll be useless if you don't help yourself first. So that's a reflection also of what Dr. Sue mentioned earlier. Pero I'm surprised that many are surprised na, oh nga no, and I love it when they say, oh nga no, kasi parang ting, parang feel good ko yun pag the callers reach that point. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Doc Norge. Doc Sue, in a word or two, most interesting or least expected source of hope that has helped your client.
Actually, I had a similar experience like yours. A client of mine mentioned that she was about to hang herself. This is a mother of a 2-year-old toddler. And it was all set. Nakalambitin na siya and she was about to push the chair, when suddenly nag-crawl yung kanyang toddler. This was about midnight. Nobody was there except she and the sleeping daughter. So nag-crawl yung kanyang baby and then the baby pull her foot, yung paa niya hinihila. Mommy, and then nakatingin daw yung mata So the eyes speaks 1,000 words to her na I need you, mommy. I am here. I love you. And it stopped. She stopped suddenly and cried and embraced her child and said, I will not do it again. I love you. So that moment, I also felt that hope, with the eyes of her child. And we can all be instrumental just like her child. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Agnes, how about you?
Yeah, normally it's the relationship, no. It's the relationship that makes them think twice before they want to harm themselves or go on with their suicidal thoughts. So, in my case, I had several, callers before who had second thoughts because of the children. Paano yung mga anak ko, sinong maiiwan? And normally, I would harvest that. I would harvest that and say, oo nga, sino nga maiiwan? Sabi niya, hindi ko maiiwan siya sa aking asawa kasi yung asawa ko ganito, ganito, ganito. So, it's more on that conversation that makes them realize. You pick up from what they said and you harvest that, you expound on it to make them realize there's still a reason for you to continue on living. Meron pa, no? And relationship, so parents could be parents. Marami rin nagsasabi na fear of ano of me of falling into sin, no? I don't want to go to hell. May mga ganun din, no? May mga ganun din. But I think it's more on relationship, no? Relationship is very important.
Thank you for that. Interesting, everyone, to share, no? And to know na ang dami natin natutunan here from your experiences. And it's nice to know that hope can come in different forms and in different ways talaga. Grabe, it encompasses each and everyone's experiences, no? All right. Let's now move to our last and final submission from Alpha. Okay. Alpha had a hard time adjusting to their circumstances growing up. They had poor health and financial issues and was estranged from their biological younger siblings. Also had difficulties with their peers in school and just felt lonely and helpless to the point that they would hurt themselves. Here, I'll share with you an excerpt from their submission. Back then, every day felt so hopeless, and I found myself thinking about death. What would happen if I were gone? Would everyone have a happier life without me? These thoughts often crept into my mind, and I hated myself for thinking this way for years. Eventually, these thoughts weren't just thoughts. I profoundly regret my past actions. Okay, so as they grew older, however, they were able to find that connection with their friends and family, as what was mentioned earlier, relationships. No? Here they shared, when I grew older, I found friends who actually helped me. I talked with my siblings and I tried talking to my parents. I felt safer and I would abuse myself less. Bad thoughts weren't 100% gone, but it was more quiet and I was genuinely happy. My friends even encouraged me to go to therapy, which I did, and it was very helpful. Okay, Alpha's story highlights the importance of support of family and friends, people we can immediately approach for help. Their experience is a testament to the popular mental health slogan that we are not alone in dealing with our problems. For Alpha, it was their friends that encouraged them to go to therapy and they took their advice. But what if you know someone, a friend, for example, who's going through a crisis but actually refuses to seek or accept help? I've heard this over, many times in calls, and usually I would respond with the caller by, just telling them to be there for their friend. We can't force them. Meet them where they are at right now. And just really, maintain that concern for their friend. How about you, Doc Norge? With the calls that you get, how would you uh, address this? Someone a friend who refuses to seek or accept help.
The way I interpreted this question is, if I was that friend and there I have another friend who I realize is undergoing some mental health issues and refuses to seek help. Sa akin kasi, if the perspective is still there, if she is not at risk to herself, yung talagang, yung malungkot lang or may pinagdadaanan, ika nga, I'll always be there because I'm the friend, right? Pero kasi if it is already like talagang nalaman ko that she is already doing self-harm or even considering or has even attempted suicide, definitely I will look for allies. Kung ayaw, siyempre starting with pamilya, sino yung pinaka-trusted. Kung wala talaga, then sino pa ba yung kabarkada namin that, sort of lovingly gang up on her to say you need help and we're doing this because we love you, we're your friends. And then kung hindi pa rin yun, talagang other allies na, because again, we do it in crisis line to save a life. This is saving my friend. So if we have to live by that label of being a friend, 'di ba? Sa akin kasi ganun. Kung yung talaga nalulungkot lang, may pinagdadaanan, I'll be here. You may not want to talk about it. We'll just be together. Okay lang. Phone call away, I'm here. Pero and I'm lucky to have that support group na ganun kami. But ang ano nun is pag meron ng ibang pumapasok na that could be harmful or keeps that friend of mine at risk, then I'll have to move a little bit more aggressively na. Yeah.
Good reminders, no? It's really being there for that friend of ours that refuses to seek help. And if they do seek help, we're ready to provide that help, no? One thing that was mentioned also in the story, good to know that there is help, but perhaps life can be full of surprises. Even after having a support system, Alpha took care of themselves more, as they've articulated. The bad thoughts weren't 100% gone. Later on in their life, unfortunately, Alpha experienced a loss that would show that healing is not always a linear process. However, as Alpha mentioned, I lost one of my closest friends recently and I spiraled downwards. It was very difficult to even get up, and I didn't want to live my life without her. I didn't care about school anymore, and I eventually took a leave of absence. For someone who is very conscious about their grades, I actually didn't care anymore. So my friend urged me to go back to therapy again, and I managed to have a healthier mindset. One step at a time, I am healing and slowly finding my motivation to at least bathe and get out of bed. I can actually say that I am happy and content right now. I have accepted the reality of my loss and I am healing. I hope you will heal too. Okay. Nice that Alpha also put out a message to everyone there that, I hope you will heal too. Reading this experience, it seemed that she have dealt with so much pain, grief, and loss included. Two things that are very tricky to deal with is, and it involves all sorts of emotions. No? Sabi nga nila, it comes in waves and it never really leaves you. Um, Lalo na with dealing with grief and loss or anything for that matter, you never really move on. You move forward. You move and grow around your pain. Okay, next, no? May I direct this question to Doc Sue. In dealing with grief and loss and knowing that healing is not linear, how does one know that they are moving forward?
Okay, thank you for that question, Tal. That's true what you said. There are good days, there could be bad days. But grief is a natural response to loss. And it's emotional suffering that you feel when something or someone you love is taken away can be really fluctuating or undulating. They say grief can be undulating or fluctuating. It comes in waves. One day you're feeling good, another day you feel down. And that's normal and valid. It's something that we pay for loving a person. Sabi nga nila, there's always a price tag that we have, that we do and we pay. especially when we love a person. And by the way, let me remind you that grief and loss does not only speak about death. It could be relationship, broken relationship. It could be loss of health, especially for us aging. You don't enjoy anymore the strength and the energy that you used to enjoy maybe 10 or 20 years ago. The loss of a job, many experienced this during the pandemic. Loss of financial stability. It could be a miscarriage or retirement. Ayan, lahat yata tayo retired na eh, no? But we're still here. We're functioning and well, right? Thank God. Ayan. Death of a pet. Hindi lang someone, ano, pwedeng aso, no? We know pets here are also part of the family. It could be death also or loss of a cherished dream. Di ba something that we aspire for, we hope, biglang nawala. It crushed. It crushed us, di ba? It could be also maybe a serious illness of a loved one or maybe us or loss of a friendship, loss of safety after a trauma, or it could be selling a family home or any property, and it could be many more. So, when we encounter grief, just like what I've said and you mentioned, it comes in waves. So, maybe for us to better handle it, first and foremost, we have to acknowledge our pain. It's okay, Alpha, not to be okay. You're in pain. I can feel it in your story, and I'm sorry for your loss, your friend's loss. And it happened to any one of us in different forms. And this is part of human experience. You're not alone here. We are all in this together. Second, accept that grief can trigger many different and unexpected emotions. And that's what's happening to us. It's not linear, it's undulating, fluctuating, high, sometimes high, low, and it's okay. Understand that your grieving process will be unique to you. Remember, there's no timeline. Some grieve for a short time, some grieve for a long time, sometimes a lifetime. Allow yourself to grieve. Give yourself permission, to grieve. We all deserve that. We need to release this feeling that is so heavy and painful inside us. Seek out face-to-face support. Sana hindi lang virtual, ano? If you have family, friends that you can talk to, it's also important that you're able to get the support of the people who care for you. Again, you're not alone here. Support yourself emotionally by taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. Babalik na naman tayo sa self-care. Lalo na ngayon, double work. Remember, you need this especially at this difficult time of your life. And most importantly, recognize the difference between grief and depression. Kasi there are 5 stages. Very popular to kay Kubler-Ross, di ba? We have shock. Siyempre, na-shock ka, no? Very young age yung friend mo, about maybe your age, bago wala na, no? Marami nawala na rin, ano? During the time of the pandemic. You can be angry, no? Bakit nangyari sa kanya? Why she? She has a very bright future ahead of her. She has a family. She has kids, maybe. And then you go into some sort of denial, pwede rin, ano? This is not happening. And then you bargain. Lord, sana kung itong nagawa ko, baka pwede pa, no? Pwede pa siguro. Kung mabalik, ano? Pero alam naman natin, tapos na, no? And then eventually, depression. May mga complex grieving, yun yung medyo clinical na, no? Kasi may mga hugot yan, childhood trauma, mga clinical conditions, chemical imbalance, etc. Pero we're talking here of the ordinary depression or sadness, and it's okay. That's part of grieving until eventually you accept. Acceptance is something you say to yourself, it's okay. This is part of humanity. I am now more aware and accepting of what happened. And I now embrace life again in the loving memory of my friend. Remember, grief never ends. It's not really moving forward without grieving, but it's really moving towards life in loving memory of the people we lost. And that's exactly the beauty of grieving. We discover something different about ourselves. And may you discover also, Alpha, the beauty behind or the silver lining behind this difficult time of your life. And I pray with you and all of those who are grieving right now, may we all be in that final acceptance and living in the loving memory of the people or our pets that has gone or went ahead of us. Thank you. Again, God bless us.
And likewise, at this juncture, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished panelists, Doc Sue, Miss Agnes, and Doc Norge, for the very insightful and inspiring discussion we had.
The best is yet to come. So to Charlie, Bravo, and Alpha, always hope for the best. And I pray with you that the best for you will be there, maybe in front of your doorstep, just waiting for you to recognize it. And for all of us, keep safe and well. God bless us all. Thank you. Thank you. Great discussion. Thank you.
Thank
Miss
you.
Agnes.
Yeah, to Charlie, to Bravo, to Alpha, believe in yourself, continue on believing in yourself. You've got what it takes. You've already taken the first step, and we are here for you. Okay?
Yes.
And Doc Norge.
Yes. You are stronger and better and more courageous than you think. Tama ang sinabi nila Dr. Sue and Miss Agnes. So there can only be hope in the future. There's only one way to go, and that's up. So congratulations for making that first step for yourselves. Okay.
And again, thank you everyone for joining us here today. Know that you are not alone and we are here to help. Hope is here. There is always hope and there's always help. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Um, in summary, what I was able to pick up from this discussion is that um, what was mentioned at the beginning, it cuts across all industries, all people, and no matter what our experience is, we struggle and we go through these difficulties in life, um, but what was shared with all the sharings, no, first step is to acknowledge, to recognize. Next is to reach out, and that was what was common with the stories that we discussed, no, and I hope that this what we discuss here also resonates with our audience today. Once again, I'd like to thank those who have shared their valuable stories with us today. These individuals have actually chosen to be courageous and allowed themselves to be vulnerable when they chose to share their respective life battles, which are very personal and definitely, promotes hope. As Brené Brown puts it, the definition of vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. But vulnerability is not a weakness. It's our most accurate measure of courage, and courage, which was mentioned um, many times in this discussion. Likewise, at this juncture, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished panelists, Doc Sue, Miss Agnes, and Doc Norge, for the very insightful and inspiring discussion we had. Remember, help is always there. Every one of us need not to be scared about reaching out. As we close today's episode, we hope that we have all been inspired to be the light that shines for someone else's dark path. Suicide and thoughts of self harm can happen to just about anyone, and we are here to let you know that you are not alone. There is hope, and help is always there. And if you ever need to reach out, as was mentioned earlier, Crisis Line is here 24/7 to provide in the moment emotional support. Once again, this has been Thal. Thank you for joining us today and our In Touch Stories of Hope, finding the strength and courage to carry on.